sitting here across the pond in Santa Barbara, right? You're in Santa Barbara, Santa Monica?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, that's right. I always get confused with the two. But I'm sitting here with the beautiful Claire Candy Hough, aka Angel Ariel. And Claire is the author of One True Home, Behind the Veil of Forgetfulness. And I am an Angelic Walk-In. And I think they both hit the #1 on Amazon, right?
Actually, I Am an Angelic Walk-In went #1 on internationally on Amazon,
No.
as it hit #1 in USA, Germany, Australia, England, and Canada.
Which is great.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And then you're also the author of Angels of Faith, which is actually a children's book.
Yeah, I have as many people reading that and
Mhm.
ordering that because it's wonderful for adults who are bereaved, who have loved ones who have terminal illnesses, because the theme of the book is we don't die
Which
and
is
we live on.
You're also an angel practitioner, which is logical. You're a Reiki Master healer, and you are the CEO of Angel House Radio.
Angel Healing House.
Yes.
Angel Healing House Radio.
Now let's dive into your books. I've read them, and I've shed a tear, and I've had my aha moments because life is, yeah, it makes life a lot, a lot easier. It becomes so much clearer. But the beauty about you is that you remembered who you were after Claire Candy Hough struggled so much that Angel Ariel walked in. Now, we talk about walk-ins, and people are like, well, what are walk-ins? Because a lot of people that have been through trauma or have been in a coma, they wake up and they cannot remember. And they have completely different characteristics. Now, when you walked in, you didn't remember who you were, but along life's journey, you met people like, I think it was a medium, psychic medium, and then you started to remember.
Yes.
So tell
Yes,
me a little
and
bit about it.
okay, the wonderful thing about this is that, first of all, walk-ins happen because of a person on the earth plane, a human soul, either through emotional or physical illness, they can't keep their life force going anymore, and they ask unconsciously to leave exit their contract. They don't do this on a conscious level because they're in such a dark fog emotionally and in such despair. And we across the veil don't want to see anybody hurt or suffer interminably. We know our best lessons happen in hardship and adversity, and we need to be challenged in order to grow. But it was so important since the harmonic convergence of 1987, the last 30 years, to hold as much light as possible for the planet. And so I came to her and I said, we hear your prayers of just wanting to die. And instead of suiciding, she had tried twice and failed. Instead of getting rid of the body, if you walk out, you can go home to God with honors. And if you allow me to walk in, I will clean up your life. I'll take care of your responsibilities and start with my mission. Now, when you come in as a walk-in, Brigitte, you don't come in with a handbook. You come in and at that time, that would be easy, turn to page 4, what's happened to me. But it doesn't happen like that, but you are aware that everything in your life, which was created by that person who was so terribly traumatized that they wanted to exit their contract, wanted to leave their life. So they had negative relationships, negative work situation. But when you come in as a walk-in, you're aware that it's almost as if you're living the wrong life. And when I came in, everything was so disparate to my angelic nature that I started to separate and I started to clean up my life. Not being religious or spiritual, I became very devoted to following the voice of God that was speaking within me. And I knew that everything would be okay. Now, the funny thing about this and finding out that I was an angelic walk-in, was that my angelic family, who call themselves the Posse of Angels,
Yeah.
they allowed me to really bump around for 3 months while I was experiencing these walk-in characteristics, which were very different from what I experienced before.
No.
And as all the clairs came back in, and I started to remember who I was divinely, and then, and only then, was I introduced to that international clairvoyant and also that spiritual healer
Yeah.
within days of each other separately that said, are you aware that you've had an angelic walk-in? And so it was not like a hypochondriac who hears the symptoms or reads about a symptom and then develops it. I had already experienced the characteristics for 3 months, and then it would be another 3 months before the Posse of Angels allowed me to get any books or information, which were very few and far between in 2003, on walk-ins. So by that time, I really understood what had happened to me because I was already living the characteristics.
I'm just going to jump to your other book, One True Home Behind a Veil of Forgetfulness. And yeah, that's it. I love that book. And it's so self-explanatory because, we have a soul contract. We're born, we forget completely, and we have to maneuver ourselves, on this plane, which is full of challenges for some. So, but when we cross over again, we see the ones that we love, they come and greet us, and then we go to our life review, which is, I guess you see it in a movie, like really quickly.
Yes.
And then you go to the Akashic Hall of Records, where isn't this where all your lives are stored, all the memories are stored?
Yes, your book of life is in
Yes.
the Hall of the Akashic Records, and you meet with the Etheric Council.
That's right.
And unlike all many religions, which will speak about Judgment Day and doom and gloom, and and what the Etheric Council will say is, how'd you go in your life?
Exactly.
And then all they want to know, they'll take your book of life off the shelf, they'll open it up to your most recent incarnation, and they'll go, how'd you go? And you'll discuss this, and they'll say, well, did the lessons that you set out in your contract, which are written here, how'd you go learning them or not learning them, or what were your impressions? And then afterwards, they don't hold up judges like, the Russian judge, which would give you a 2, or the USA judge might give you a 9. It's not like that. They say they applaud you most of all for coming back and playing a human life, because we're veiled, as you said, when we come in, and it's like a double-blind study. We don't even know we're playing this human game, and so they applaud us for just coming back in human form, coming to a planet which so often love does not exist for so many people here, because it is so disparate and so torn apart when it comes to love. So they'll applaud you and they'll sign off. And then, unlike a lot of books on past lives, this speaks about our life in the afterlife. We're not just given a halo and a harp and told to fly around. We're saying, they're saying to us, okay, where do you want to live?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And I speak about my beautiful Italian villa that I created in so many different lifetimes, and also I loved creating on the artist's levels, through painting, through my music, and a lot of times this music that's created across the veil in these levels gets channeled down, or books. People that channel books, like this book was channeled to me. It was just, it was there. There was no forethought. God spoke to me and said, we've created a book, and all you need to do is open yourself up to receive it. Many people, when they start reading this book, what they start doing around 50, 60, 70 pages, they start to remember their own journey, because it's written with the angelic codes of light, if you want to call it that. and it starts the reader to awaken to their own divinity. And they've done this before. So the arc starts out with my life as a princess in ancient Egypt,
I know.
and
Yeah.
then that life ends, and then I go up to heaven. What did I do in heaven then? And then I chose, because not everybody is forced to come back and
Mhm.
live another incarnation.
Yeah.
I chose to come back and work on those lessons which I may not have learned in that previous incarnation. So I come back in as a healer in 14th century Scotland,
Yeah.
and then I go back up. And you can see how each lifetime is built on the previous lifetime
Mhm.
and the lessons that you learned or you didn't learn, and the arc of the enlightenment until Ariel, me, became Angel Ariel.
You know, I love your life after the Italian life you had.
Yeah,
you
I
you
love that life.
oh no. Oh yeah, you chose to become a slave.
Yes, yes. Well, when I was a high-priced prostitute, which is
Yeah.
a courtesan in Venice, and it was at the height of the courtesans when they weren't looked down upon. They were actually lauded. And I must just say here that the reason that is my favorite life was not so much because of the sex. It was it was
The books.
although that was a lovely part of it. It was because courtesans were the only women at that time who had access to the libraries,
Yeah.
and I was highly educated and I loved learning. But I was very haughty, and I treated my servants and other people with absolute contempt. And when I went to the Etheric Council after I crossed over, and I was a while, I don't know, time doesn't exist, after I was in heaven for some time. Then I went to the Etheric Council and I said, I want to come back and I want to choose a life in which all of my freedoms are taken away.
Yeah.
So I understand what it's like to be in that situation where I treated my servants and those beneath me with such contempt. And that's why I chose to be a slave in the 1800s, a young girl caught off the west coast of Africa, and then taken to work the tobacco fields in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And lots of people would like to say, "Oh, I was Cleopatra in another life," or "Oh, I was Napoleon." Or it. What this book shows is that each and every one of us
Mhm.
plays such an important part
Yeah.
and makes such a difference in the life of others. And no life is any more grand than another life.
No.
And although what appears when we're on the earth plane to be a very tragic life, I say that these were five of my most important
Yeah.
past lives. Of course, I lived other lives, but these were the five most important lives because my soul grew the most spiritually.
Yeah.
And that's why they were the most
Now,
important.
before we're born, we have a soul contract. So we choose the characters, we choose our family, we choose the lessons that we want to learn and the challenges we set ourselves. And then we're
Right.
born and it's poof, we've forgotten everything.
Right.
And so, it's about remembering who we are. And for a lot of people, that is difficult.
Well, it's the reason it's difficult is because we have been brought up under a matrix in our world, and the world that we have been brought up in is stay small. Don't listen to your intuition. Follow groups, communities, organizations that tell you what to do, what to think, what to buy, in this way that you can be more controlled. And if you're fearful about competition and about being yourself, then you're more likely to be led and to be able to be easily manipulated. So what's
Like sheep.
happening? Yes, like sheep. And so what's happening with the shift of the ages is that people are reawakening to their divinity inside. I say their divine eternal natures,
Yeah.
and how they are alchemists outside and they can create their own realities. They're opening up to the fact that they're multidimensional beings. So yes, we create soul contracts, and up until now, I spoke about this in my Angel Healing House radio program. Up until now, our biological families, the people that we've met and helped us, and we've helped them along the way, we've created one group of, let's say, soul contracts. Because we have shifted and we're not the same people anymore,
Right.
we're crystalline beings going into like the fifth dimension and higher with these enormous shifts. What we're doing now is from the solar eclipse new moon is we're going to be bringing to ourselves new family to support us, to encourage us, to
Yes.
promote us. And those of us who have been true to doing what God and the angels have asked us to do, whether it was logical or rational, or, you know, it was the most convoluted things, like Pete and I selling our beach home, beautiful beach home in Australia, and coming to the States at the beginning of the recession with no contacts, no jobs, you know, and no family, uh, you know, and God provided for us.
Yeah.
But that's where we are with our soul contracts now, and we will be amazed at. And there's nothing that we have to do now in order to force this to happen.
No.
All we have to do is just be present,
Yeah.
be our most divine, authentic selves, and allow for it to come in. And when it comes in and we start to wiggle and we start to get excited, that's when we take inspired action forward
Yeah.
and connect with this person, and then to just let go of how it's going to and how and where it's going, because it's like a magic carpet ride that we're going on.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, and I know that Pete is your twin flame, and people often wonder, well, what's a twin flame? Well, it's your other half in heaven. It's not a soulmate, because a soulmate is someone who you experience lessons with, right?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And this, it's interesting you bring that up, because this, with people really opening up to their authentic selves, this coming Tuesday on Angel Healing House Radio, I'm speaking about twin flames and soulmates. The greatest difference in soulmates and twin flames is soulmates come together to bring together and complete some karma, to complete some unfinished business, and that often comes in with irritation, agitation, pushing another person's buttons, and drama, and that drama is because it reflects something that's still not brought back into alignment within that person. Now, you don't have to keep playing the soulmate game, but once you understand this, then you can turn the mirror back on yourself. Twin flames are called a divine perfection of love, because when we're across the veil, it's the perfect balance of divine masculine and divine feminine. And when we come back in the earth form that we're in now, we're always longing for that other half. But I really must say to people, stop looking for your twin flame. Stop. The reason because of this is because in most cases, your twin flame is not in this incarnation with you, because they can help better. They can help better from across the veil. That doesn't mean that you can't have an absolutely beautiful relationship with someone who is reflecting, you know, your clear, bright, loving, forgiving energies within yourself. Also, if your twin flame is here on the earth plane and you don't understand what a twin flame relationship is, you really it might be your undoing, because to be in a twin flame relationship, your life is not your own. It simply is not your own, because it's a triad, excuse me, with God at the top. God is driving this car, the divine masculine Pete, divine feminine myself,
In the back seat?
and God tells you where to go. Yeah, in the back seat. God tells you where to go, what to do, when to do it, and it's not rational, and it's not justified, and it's certainly, goes beyond any kind of logical thinking.
Yeah.
You just keep stepping up and following that voice. Now, a friend of mine said, "Oh, I wish my husband and I, who often quarrel, could have a relationship like you and Pete. It's very respectful, and you allow each other to be yourselves." And I said, "Well, I take this for example. They have a beautiful home up in the valley in Los Angeles," and I said, "Okay, let's say you're in a twin flame relationship, and God told you sell your house and move to Australia. Would you do that?" She said, "Of course not."
There you go.
I said, "Then you don't understand. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter your surroundings. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters."
No.
I said, "Because you're of service to the divine, and most people will not allow themselves to be at that level of service." And that's what, don't get me wrong. Twin flame relationships are very, very romantic. Okay, don't get me wrong. They're just yummy. They're yummy, and they're beautiful. But we know that we're of service to God in every single moment. And if God goes, I mean, sometimes with every move that we've made, Pete will suddenly look off and will go, like off in the distance, he'll go, "I think we need to start packing because it feels like we're going to be moving soon." We don't know where, we don't know under what circumstances, but we know if we're given the urge to pack and to get ready, then we'll be shown the next puzzle piece. So think very carefully, because what you say is manifested in marble in these energies. If you really want your twin flame relationship, and your twin flame is on the earth plane, it's not so much what you'll be giving up, it's what you'll be garnering in being of service to God. And there is no greater service that Pete and I have than to be of service to the divine. As a combined whole.
Yeah. Now when we talk about energy, I mean, the mind is the most powerful tool you have. So, you have your mind chatter. So whatever you tell yourself, if you're going to say, for instance, "I'm just holding my head barely above water," if that's the right expression, financially, then that is exactly what will happen.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And this month's Angel Healing House radio program was all about spiritual laws. And that was exactly it. I mean, I had a client that said, "When is it going to be my time? Why do I always have to struggle?" And I said, "You always have to struggle because that's what you're focusing on." It's actually a double negative. You're telling God, "I'm unhappy and I am in lack because I don't have enough." And so what's always appearing in your reality is unhappiness and not enough.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So
it's very true.
So I said, you can switch that by saying, by being in gratitude and appreciation for exactly what you do have, and feeling abundance around that. And then whoosh, your reality starts to change because the energy changes, and then it becomes that magic carpet ride.
It's like in that documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? Their phrase is really simple: change your thinking, change your life.
Yes, exactly. So, and it's all energy. And I heard somebody the other day said, "Why does God make these things happen?" I said, "God doesn't make these things happen." I said, "He's given us free will and free choice, which is the most extraordinary thing that he, she, it, all that is could possibly have done for us, because then it puts the onus on us to take responsibility, and then we're not puppets,
That's right. So how do you advise people to overcome their own obstacles, their own struggles? Because a lot of people run around in circles.
They do. Okay. If you adopt the 5 most important principles that Angel Healing House is built on, then you pretty much have a ballast in your life. Okay. The first is because we've written soul contracts. Once you understand that you're divine, you're a spiritual being having a human experience, then you understand responsibility. Every person, including my abusive ex, who I write about in my book, I Am an Angelic
Yes.
Walk-In,
Mm-hmm.
he is divine underneath his choices and his decisions. But you understand that every person, place, and thing and situation that you've experienced, you've actually written into your contract.
Right.
And once you take responsibility and accountability for your part,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no blame,
No.
there's no fault finding, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no being a victim. Okay, so
Correct.
once responsibility is really firmly in place, then the second one comes in very quickly, which is forgiveness.
Yes.
Okay, so but you don't forgive by saying I forgive you, because I forgive you still apportions blame. Like I forgive you because you did something, not we co-created this together.
Right.
So I prefer that the person say, please forgive me,
Yeah.
because that lifts the burden off of your soul and makes room for untold peace and untold happiness to
Yeah.
come in. Okay. The third one is non-judgment.
Yeah.
Judge ye not, that ye be judged yourself. Okay.
Uh-huh.
My brother reminded me, when you point your finger at one person, three fingers are pointing back. We only judge if it's a reflection of something that's already inside of us.
Right.
Also, with judgment, who are we? We're not the arbiter of what is right or wrong or good or bad. It's all
No.
perception and attitude. So you allow somebody to live their life. You bless them on their journey, because certainly I remember the former soul's life, and I wouldn't judge her life.
Mm-hmm.
That was her journey that she chose, and I
Yes.
will be darned if I allow anybody to tell me how to walk my journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I bless them where they are, which is exact perfection for them.
Yes.
The fourth is to put most of your energies on your gratitude and appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
because second to love, gratitude and appreciation are two of the highest forms of healing and energy that there
Yes.
are. If you bless what you have, you will be given more. And
Mm-hmm.
then the fifth one is unconditional love for ourselves and for others. And in this way, there's a strong foundation for your life. And suddenly, there's no blame, so there's no anger or sadness or
Correct.
bitterness or no
Yes.
resentment, regret,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
criticism, defensiveness. You become in the world and not of it. You become like an observer, and then you balance out your human side with
Mm-hmm.
the etheric side,
Yep.
and you start to experience heaven on earth.
That actually answers my other question as well. Because my other question was, how do you tell people to find their joy in life? But that really answers it.
Okay, all right. But that's an interesting question, because I often get asked, why are we here?
Yes.
What's the purpose in life?
Yes.
Okay, and that's twofold. We are here not to try to figure life out, and it's not just one purpose, it's our passion. And
Mm-hmm.
I've plugged my passion into writing and into art and into music
Yes.
and into public speaking and my radio show and my books and all different kinds of avenues. We're here to expand and to grow our souls. And another great show of mine was, don't ask for an easy life, ask for your most beneficial life.
Yeah. Okay.
Because okay, so number one, we're here for our soul's growth.
Yes.
And number two is to find your joy, do what you love doing.
Mm-hmm.
And most
Yes.
people won't do that because they try to figure it out how they can make any money doing
I
that.
know.
When that's just the opposite way around, because money comes from the divine. It doesn't come from the earth plane.
Mm-hmm.
Money is an energy, and if we're abundant doing what we love doing, like my writing,
Mm-hmm.
um, I never did it to make money, but because I was so joyful doing it,
Yeah.
that things are now being presented to me that money is attached to this, but it was because of the joyful, childlike blissful, enthusiastic energies when I did it.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks to manifestation of the on the universal plane,
Yeah.
and then that will bring you more things to be joyful about.
That's funny when I because I was running around in circles a lot for most of my life, and then last year I decided I'm going to start doing things for me. So that's when I started. I went skydiving because I was scared of heights. I went hang gliding. I sat on a gator. I had a python around my neck. I started running for charity for cancer because I promised my stepdad a long time ago, when he passed away in 2000, that I'd be running for cancer. So 16 years later, I started doing it. And I said to Spirit, I said, I'm going to start enjoying my life. Just make sure I get enough work.
Mm.
So, and it does work. It does. It's a
It
mindset.
does. And
Yes.
the funny thing is, most people will say it doesn't work because I don't have millions of dollars. But we are given what we need.
Yes.
We're not given what we want. And thank goodness we don't always get what we want because of our egos,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what our soul needs to grow
Yes.
in order to be given by what it needs rather than what it wants.
Yeah, that's right. In your book, you also talk about Kuan Yin. Everybody loves Kuan Yin. And she likes to say, and I know she told you, um, when the student is ready, the master appears. Now,
Yes.
it and Kuan Yin, isn't she part of the White Brotherhood?
Yes,
Yes.
she is part of the White Brotherhood. The White Brotherhood, and they're not called that because they're racist.
No,
They're,
I know.
they're called that because, and they're not gender sexist either because, it's just like a brethren. There are masculine and feminine
Yes.
energies in the White Brotherhood. It's because of the amount of light that's being emitted from them. And it's made up of ascended masters
Yes.
uh, who have come back to the earth, some of them, and in order to bring more light to the planet, like Saint Germain,
Yeah.
who was Francis Bacon,
That's right.
um, and Jesus, who was
Yes.
Lord Sananda.
Yes.
Um, but Kuan Yin is a wonderful energy. I always equate Kuan Yin's energy very much with Mother Mary.
Yes.
Both are so much about compassion
Mm-hmm.
and mercy, certainly for others, but for ourselves, because certainly in this very patriarchal world that we have been chained to and lived under for
Mm-hmm.
a very long time, women have, we were told to give to everybody else, but not to give to ourselves,
That's right.
and not to, and so to diminish the divine feminine within inside of us. And that's why so many people, I think, like Kuan Yin and Mother Mary, because of that beautiful, soft, nurturing,
Mm-hmm.
divine feminine energy. And also, uh, I love the story of Kuan Yin. She had the opportunity to rise and to go home to paradise. And right before she was going to go, she still heard the cries of people on the earth plane who were still so much in despair and just terribly hurt. And she said, "How can I leave? How can I leave when there's still work to be done?" So
Yeah.
it's about, seeking the compassion. How can I be of service? And it's a wonderful energy to align with.
Yeah. Now we were talking about the struggles earlier on, where we touched on it briefly in I'm an Angelic Walk-In, because Claire struggled so much. She went through an abusive relationship. She had so many hardships. But even though she had a difficult life, before you both swapped, she did keep going and she kept going. But yet she was a victim of her circumstances. Now, a lot of
She
people,
was a victim.
yes, yes, she was. But a lot of people remain stuck. A lot of people will keep running around in circles, and feel sorry for themselves and have a pity party. And,
Right.
and every day that passes by is a day gone by, and you don't know if you're going to have 10 years left or a month left. And I look at people and it's like, come on, get up, keep moving.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of this stems, a lot of this is former generations that were told to survive. They
Yes.
weren't told to thrive, they were told to survive. And life was meant to be hard. Life is meant to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You shut up and you just get on with things, and you take the lowest common denominator,
Mm-hmm.
and don't dream, and don't have your aspirations and your desires and your wishes. And with each generation that's been born, the indigos, the millennials, the crystal children, the
Mm-hmm.
rainbow, the star children, they're born of a higher vibrational frequency, and their natural nature is to thrive. But those who still find themselves in that cycle
Mm-hmm.
of, that you were speaking about, they do this because they know that they're not happy.
Right.
They know that they're sad, and they keep choosing this because of something, a default programming that they're going to that happened in their childhood,
Right.
that's playing over and over again of I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I don't measure up, and
Mm-hmm.
so I will take an abusive relationship. I will take a controlling boss. I will take whatever that is. I will stay in a job just for the paycheck. I won't. I won't open up my hand and let that go, so that God can fill it up with something else, more honoring and respectful. They
Mm-hmm.
don't understand by being honoring and respectful and loving and kind and gentle and compassionate with themselves, and by raising the bar, then the universe has to match that, because the universe desires exactly what we desire.
Yes.
And if we do not set the bar for that, it doesn't matter how many Reiki masters they go to. It doesn't matter how many
No, it doesn't.
self-help books
Mm-hmm.
or webinars or podcasts or Angel Healing House radio programs they listen to. They have to be the initiate that initiates
Yes.
that happiness and that joy. At least if you can't experience happiness and joy after this cycle of miserable feelings, is then just switch it to I am grateful and I am appreciative. And I've had people terribly depressed that have
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't have anything to be grateful for. I said, you're looking at me. You have your eyes. I said, tell that to a person that was born blind. Tell that to a person who had their
Yes.
sight taken away. I said, you have your limbs. I said, you can breathe. Tell
Mm-hmm.
that to a person who has to be on an oxygen tent,
Yeah.
or carry one of those canisters around with
Mm-hmm.
them. I said, you're a woman, you have a business. I said, be in one of those countries where they put you in a shroud and you can't drive and you can't vote and
All
you
right.
can't,
Mm-hmm.
all your liberties are taken away. I said, we're not in a war-torn country, so we can always bring it back to the simple things in life. And once we understand that those simple things are not so simple, and that we've been graciously been blessed and gifted those by God, it creates this feeling inside of us that it just wells up,
Yeah.
that we're not here by happen chance, and these things are gifts for us. I've
Mm-hmm.
often said on my radio program before that there are three specific gifts that we have been given by God before we incarnate, and I'd like to share those with you
Yep.
now. The first one is we are more we are more cherished, adored, guided, and protected by our angels, by our angelic help, than we possibly could ever imagine. We are never left alone,
No.
and we are never where we do not have an alternative, or we're never alone where we're not shown signs or directions. And most people discount this because it doesn't happen in the way they expect it to come in.
Well, I think many people are unaware. You know, it's when you a lot of people are not aware that they have spirit guides. You know, the angels, and their guides, the ascended masters to help them,
Yes.
and it is becoming, you know, learning to become aware and learning to ask. Yeah, I'm not saying, you know, get the lottery numbers, but I mean that's not gonna happen. But to ask
Again,
for
it's not
help.
what we want, it's what we need.
I know. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
that's the first one. And that's very comforting to people because then they don't have to figure life out. They can ask
yeah,
and then stay in the present moment and watch those signs to come in. And if the
yes,
signs aren't there, it doesn't mean not never, it means not now. If we're not seeing the signs,
yeah,
it means for us to be creative, have fun and play,
yeah,
creatively
hmm,
expressing ourselves, and then just be vigilant about watching for those signs to the fulfillment of those things you've asked for. The second one is the second gift that we've been given is that
hmm,
abundance is our nature. Now, what does
yes,
that mean? That means in any single second, we are pure potential. And if you do not like the reality that you've created, you can create a different
yeah,
reality with your thoughts, your words, and the feelings in your heart. If you want to change something, say, I am. For years, I said, I am an international #1 best-selling author. And
bam, you are.
just last week, this went international best-selling on Amazon.
I know,
So
and
it's
yeah, everyone should read. Everyone should read it.
so, dreams do come true.
Yes,
It may not come true when you want it or in the way that you think it's going to
correct.
come in, but it's going to come in for the greatest good of yourself and the greatest good of all concerned, because that's how the universe works. It's very
Hmm.
magnanimous. Okay, the third gift that we've been given lots of gifts, but these are the most important three, is that everything happens in divine timing,
Yes.
not in our timing. And this is so important. When you understand this, then you can let go of when it's supposed to happen. You
Correct.
know, I must have been saying that for the past 2.5 years. I am an international best-selling author. And
Yes.
2.5 years later, bingo, it happens. So if I would have put my emphasis on when, my stomach would have been continually churning. Is it going to be today? Is it going to be today? Is it going to be now?
That's
Is it
not.
going to be whatever?
Mhm.
And then my immune system dropped, my energies would have dropped, and
Yes.
that would have affected all other areas in my life.
That's something that people need to
So it's like you
learn.
set it and forget it.
Yes, but that's something people need to
You
learn. They say something and then they have to let it go. And I think a lot of people have issues with that. They like to be in control.
right. Well, in our modern world with cell phones and
Hmm.
laptops, I mean, the technology has sped up to such an extraordinary rapid rate
Yeah.
that we expect manifestation to happen for that as well. Now, there are some things which we're not connected with, which we have no attachment to, and when we say the words, bang, it happens
Hmm.
straight away. But
Yep.
there's no attachment to it. My attachment to becoming a #1 best-selling author, an international best-selling author, was huge.
Yeah.
So I said it and I repeated it. I felt and I closed my eyes and I felt what that would feel like, the joy and the happiness. And then I had to let it go. And then you have to allow. See, a lot of times, if it happened immediately,
Hmm.
whatever we wish for, um, it would happen not for the greatest benefit of all concerned.
No,
And
correct.
so in order for your manifestations and your dreams and desires, because we're all one,
Hmm.
to be of most service and best use for yourself and the planet, then that divine timing and the divine order comes in the how and the when it's presented to us. So I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing.
You know, you have to work hard for it. You know, yeah,
Absolutely, it doesn't happen by happen chance, and it has to do with the energy that one puts into things.
of course.
I
Hmm.
never stopped believing. People say, "Well, did you did you go to college to learn how to be a writer? Did you take a certification? Did you take a course?" I said, "When God knocked at my door, knock, 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 and He said." He, she, it, all that is, said, "Okay, it's time to write this book. It's
Yeah.
already on the etheric plane." I didn't say, "Okay, hang on, God, I have to go take a course, to learn how to be a writer." A very humble angel. I said, "Okay, all right, let's write this book." Afterwards, the human side of me, Brigitte, took over, and I said, "Okay, now send me a literary agent and a publisher." And they said, "No, no, no, that's not your concern. We will take care of where it's going." And I said, "Well, I said, well, then send me clients." They went, "Okay, but no, no, go write another book." I said, "But you haven't done anything with this book." And they said, "That doesn't concern you."
Okay.
Wrong. Like they could push the button, wrong. That doesn't concern you. You have another book within you.
Yeah.
And I've written many, many books, and I wait until the posse of angels and God tell me when is the optimum time to bring them out for the greatest good of myself and the greatest good of all concerned. Now, does living life like this entail faith? You
Yeah.
better believe it, because
Yeah.
it goes against everything we've been told to do, which is push and force and control the universe to do our bidding, rather than being in the flow and grace and rowing our boats, going gently down the stream, not up the stream.
I'm gonna ask you if you have any last words for people.
Okay. All right. The advice that I can give people is to truly drop down to your hearts and to know how unique and special you truly are. We are like snowflakes. No two of us is exactly alike,
All right.
and down to our fingerprints, which are each individual. And if you have an idea, if you have a longing in your heart to do something, that is God and the angels speaking through you, that this is an integral puzzle piece of the planet on planet Earth, that you can contribute to the whole. And by you doing it, it will open up doors of wonder and enchantment for you to do more of what you love doing. Please know how magnificent, how beautiful, and powerful that you are, and you're here to make a difference with your individuality and by being your authentic self, and just presenting yourself in the most glorious way, and allow your radiant light to shine forth on the planet.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Even I'm like, you know, um, quiet
And
after
that's what
that.
you're
That's
doing.
amazing.
Nikita, that's what you're doing. How long ago did you decide to do these podcasts?
When did I start? I started the end of last year, but that's when I started putting my own challenges on YouTube. And then I just rolled into um, interviewing inspirational people like yourself. And I love doing it. You know,
Now,
every
aren't
time.
aren't you amazed? Aren't you amazed that you stepped forward? Now, everyone, this is a great teaching tool. Brigitte stepped forward, and no, she didn't go to journalism. She didn't go to
No,
radio college. She didn't go to anything
no.
like that. But it was this joy in her heart of exploring with other people their authentic journeys.
Yes.
And and since you've done this, the ease that you've had drawing people to yourself. I mean, the medium, at Wimbledon, the
Yes, Ivan Lee.
yes, Ivan Lee. I mean,
Yes.
that was amazing. I mean, and it's just because you stepped up and said, "I want to joyfully share
Yes.
the planet with people who are doing this," and that's a perfect example of life then answering you, because you had the faith of a mustard seed to step forward
Yes.
and to do this. Yeah.
And I love it. It's about giving people like you a platform, um, to reach a wider audience of people, because you are a very inspirational person. You are amazing. You are a
Thank you.
beautiful soul, and your light
Thank you.
should, shine far and wide.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I have had many people tell me who want to not copy what I'm doing, but they want the exposure that I've gotten in the last 2 years. I've had close to about 250 interviews, and I'd never had to look for any of them. It's spirit saying she's so joyful in what she loves and passionately, creatively does. Let's answer this with giving her more opportunities to be joyful and abundant and creative, enthusiastic. And so, you do what you love doing and let God and the angels show you then how to keep stepping forward. And it will happen in these energies with this new solar eclipse,
Mm-hmm.
with this new moon coming up. It will happen. It happens with ease and grace, and there's no more pushing. There's no more trying to figure it out. There's no more, oh, I have to network or I have to business, or there's nothing like that. We left the Piscean age in 2012. Now we're in the age of Aquarius, where all we have to do is just
Yeah.
be excited, and let the inner child in us step forward creatively and take inspired action to we love doing, because the universe is always saying yes to us.
Yeah.
And it was always saying yes to us, but we had to raise our vibrational frequency to match that of the
Yes.
universe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say thank you very much. If I
Thank
could
you
give
so
you a
much. This
hug,
is love.
I would give you a hug.
Big hugs, Brigitte. Thank you, Sia. Thank you so much for what you're
That's why I
doing.
said like this.
And I wish you I don't have to wish you success, because you have success written all over you, because you love what you're doing, you're
Yeah.
joyful when you're doing it, and you're being of service to yourself and others. So I'm wishing you so much love, and just keep
You
doing what you're
too.
doing, because your joy is infectious, and it is touching so
Oh,
many people and creating little sparks in the world.
I know.
Look after yourself. Take
You
care.
too. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.